So I started my morning by cutting this wing out, and it turned out really pretty. So this is gonna go right behind Mrs. Claus like this. I don't know if you could see it, but it's going to look like that. And then I actually made a mistake and I cut too close to the wings here, so I don't know if this will focus, but right here you can see the stitch just like out in the open. So I'm just going to be very careful with this and make sure that nothing comes loose. But I don't think it will because the other stitches are all anchored and there's not enough floss to get loose, if that makes sense. So yeah, but I'm not gonna play with it anymore just to be safe. And for Mrs. Claus, I worked on her apron and I think you can see very well the light gray shading. So that's all I did on her. And then today I'm gonna work on this dog, but I'm actually having trouble seeing this as a dog, so maybe that's why I'm keep pushing it back to stitch this, but I'm gonna try to work on this today. So I was just replying back to everyone who commented on my video that I uploaded last night, and thank you for taking the time to comment on my videos. I really love reading them in the morning, and I got a question about how I made my template for this ornament, and I think this is the ornament that she was talking about, I think. So basically I just drew it. I didn't use any special tools or anything. I think you could definitely use a compass for the top curve, but what I did was I just hand drew the shape, and to make it symmetrical I fold the paper in half. So this is the template that I used for this ornament. So I just fold the paper and draw on one side and then cut it out. So that makes it perfectly symmetrical. So this is really good when you're trying to cut out a shape that's symmetrical on both sides, not up and down, if that makes sense. So let me just demonstrate a teardrop shape. So I have a piece of paper here and I'm just going to fold this in half. I'm just going to draw my shape, and in this case I'm going for a teardrop, so I just draw that. So I'm just roughly, I'm imagining a teardrop shape, so I'm just drawing that, and then I just cut the whole thing while it's still folded. So it's like when you make a paper snowflake, a very simple one in this case. And if you don't like something about it, you just fold it back up again and cut more of it and fix it. And I just want to get rid of this point, so I draw another line and cut along that new line again. And that's what I did for my pumpkin cat. I had a little point in the middle, just like in this teardrop. So I went back and fixed it to make a better curve. So there's my teardrop. So then I would transfer this onto a cardboard and trace it and cut that out and use it as a base for my ornament. So I would do this for shapes that aren't geometric. If it was like a square or a perfect circle, I would use a compass or a ruler. But yeah, so I hope that kind of helps you when you make your ornaments. I forgot to mention this yesterday, but I actually started beading. So like around her, I don't know, like her shawl, I guess. And then all of the other empty stitches are in Krennic, so I couldn't do that yet. And then I finished the shading on her apron, and also did the gold krennic on the bottom of her dress because that was the only krennic that I had. So now I'm just gonna try to finish off the cross stitches on her dress except for the shoes because her shoes are entirely stitched with green krennic and her belt. And then I also started on the dog, and I only did like one length of black for his, I don't know, like his behind, I guess. And looking at this, I couldn't see his face. It looks more like a rabbit to me, but looking at the chart, I could see the dog. So the picture was just a bad picture of it. So I'm going to try to finish this today, and I love how it looks like he's wearing a Christmas sweater. I think it's super cute. And I got a question about how I made this tiny bow for the gingerbread man. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I did it. And really, it's really simple. So I'm just going to show you how I made the bow and how I attached it to the gingerbread cookie. So basically, I pretend this is my shoelace and make 2 loops. And I use 3 strands to do this, by the way. So I just make 2 loops and just tie it around it to each other like it's my sneakers, and I pull it. So this way I can adjust the size of the loops. So I just go and pull on one end at a time to make it smaller. So I just pull one end at a time, just little by little. And it gets twisted a little bit, but you can just play with it and make sure nothing's like tangled. So this is how tiny I want mine to be. And then I take another needle with a strand of DMC, and I use the same color to attach it to my gingerbread man, but for this I'm going to use a different color. So I anchor this into the stitches near it, and then, so here's my pink thread and my needle. So normally I would anchor the tail behind other stitches, but I'm just gonna have it in front for this demonstration. But I just come up from the back and go through like the middle of the bow. So I'm kind of like piercing it and then go back down. And when I come back up, I come up right behind the bow. I don't know if you could see this, but I'm coming back up through the hole that's right behind the bow. And then when I go back down, I go through the middle of that bow. So I'm piercing the bow once again. So that kind of holds the bow in place. And I would do that a couple of times, and then if I feel like I need to, I would, let me just adjust the placement a little bit. And if I feel like I need to, I would come back up, but this time I would come back up between the loops, just like this. So inside the loop, and then I would come back up, or I mean go back down to the other side of the loop to hold it. So this would be much easier if I had other stitches around it, because that'll help the bow to be in place. But right now I don't have any stitches here, so it's kind of like moving around. But I would do that a couple of times and make sure that it's stitched in place. And right now I'm using pink, but I would use the same color floss to do this. So then you won't see any of the pink stitches that you see here. So yeah, that's basically how I made this. And obviously I would trim the ends a little bit shorter to whatever length I want this to be. So just like this, and that's finished. And you can just play with it a little bit to shape it a little better. But yeah, so that's how I did mine. Nothing special, really. So today I'm going to try to finish the dog actually, and if I can, I'll try to work on her dress a little bit. So I have the dog almost finished. I still have to do the cranics, and there are a couple of beads on him, so I guess I'll do that, but I actually messed up the placement. So his ears got a little shorter. What happened was I didn't know that I cut this paper slightly slanted, so I didn't have enough room for like one row of stitches. So I knew I was really close to the edge, but I counted correctly, but I didn't notice that this side of the cut was slanted. So his ears got a little shorter, but I think it's okay. And now I could kind of tell his face and that he's a puppy. But I actually got another question about how to cut perforated paper. So even though this isn't exactly finished, I'm just gonna cut this out and explain what I do. And I actually went over this in my other videos. So I'm just gonna quickly go over it again. So I use two pairs of scissors, but you can just do it with one just very sharp pair of scissors. So I just cut the overall shape with the bigger pair and then go in with my smaller pair to cut out small corners. And the cutting lines are all in the chart, so all you need to do is just follow the chart. And I don't leave any margin when I do this. I just cut at the very edge, but where there are no stitches. I was really nervous to cut perforated paper, especially when I did my first project. I can't remember which one that was, but after I got used to it, it's one of my favorite parts in perforated paper projects. Um, so I usually do the straight lines first, like this, and then I would go back in and do the small corners like here. And I'm just making sure that I'm not cutting um, any nearby stitches. And I'm also looking at the chart while I'm doing this. And it's better to go really slow because it's really easy to make a mistake and cut where you're not supposed to. So sometimes this helps doing it by each line and then cutting it out. So I would do this all around the piece, making sure I'm not cutting any stitches. And this is why you need a very sharp pair. And you can do this with a X-Acto knife. And I'm just trying to trim this edge or this tail off. But yeah, you can do this with an X-Acto knife, but I find that to be a little bit more harder. So I always use this pair to do the cutting. So like smaller corners like this, it would be really hard to do with my other bigger pair. Was this not focused the whole time? And I don't know if I should do this right here, but because I made a mistake, so the ears are supposed to be a little bit longer. So I'm just gonna cut this out first. So I do the bigger chunk and then go in. Sorry, it's really hard to talk and do this at the same time. But this is, I do the same process on all of my projects. I do the bigger chunks first and then go in and do the smaller corners. So I cut this out and then this bit right here. And then I like to do it by each line. I think that makes it much more easier for me to see where I'm supposed to cut. On this side here. So this is finished, except for the cranic and the beads. But yeah, I would suggest getting a pair of small sharp scissors like this one to cut perforated paper. It'll be much more easier than a normal pair of scissors. So I'm actually making bread again, so while I wait for that, wait for the dough to rise, I'm going to work on her dress a little bit. So the bread is in the oven. I need to take it out in 15 minutes or so, but I've been working on our dress, like this bright red here, and I think it looks really good. So I'm going to finish the rest later tonight if I can, and I think I'm going to end this video here. But next week I'm going to continue work on this, but also work on one of my bride's tree ornaments, because I want to finish one project each month. And this month I'm going to work on the rabbit, so this is what it looks like. And this still has a lot to go, so yeah, I'm gonna try to finish this before October comes, and I have all of my floss here. So yeah, but I'm going to work on Mrs. Claus as well, so you'll see these two projects in my next video. So I guess that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you so much for watching and subscribing to my channel. So yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.